The Finesse Jig has been proven to catch some huge bass time and time again. If you have never thrown a Finesse Jig, you are truly missing out. When it comes to winter fishing, the Finesse Jig can be a vital lure to have in your tackle box. The Finesse Jig, however, shines all year and can catch some nice sized fish whenever other lures cannot produce. Today I'm going to tell you these tips to help you catch some giants during the winter whenever you're fishing a Finesse Jig. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. We're on the way to 5K by the end of the year and it would mean so much to me. So if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button down below and I would love to have you join the channel. The first tip I'm going to talk about is trailers. When fishing a Finesse Jig in the wintertime, it is important to use a trailer with not a lot of action. The reason why you don't want a lot of action in the wintertime is to better resemble the local forage in your body of water. During the colder months, the forage in your local body of water will have a slower metabolism and not move around as much. Depending on how exactly cold the water is you're fishing will determine what type of trailer you can use. Whenever the water temperature hits around 50 degrees, you do not have to worry about the action as much as you would whenever the water temperature is 40 degrees. One of my favorite trailers to use whenever the water temperature is a little bit on the warmer side would be the Gary Yamamoto Hula Grub. This trailer does well as a larger profile Finesse Jig whenever you are wanting to go for the bigger size fish. Whenever the water temperature is lower or the fish will not bite the Gary Yamamoto Hula Grub, I will go with the Z-Man TRD Craws. I have had a lot of luck using the Z-Man elastics during the winter and have caught some nice fish. Pairing these with a Finesse Jig is a recipe for success and really makes a difference in colder water situations. However, I also like to use the Z-Man Bug whenever I'm fishing. It really depends on what type of water I'm fishing in, so keep that in mind too. That's another good one. Using the Z-Man TRD Craws and the Buzz completely changes how your jig looks in the water because the TRD elastics will float. This gives your Finesse Jig a more realistic look in the water compared to using regular soft plastics that will not float. The second tip I'm going to talk about is fishing the Finesse Jig in the right place. In the wintertime, bass will generally be in deeper water or adjacent to deeper water. Some of my favorite places to target are creek channels, long points, humps, rocks, and vertical structure. I've had the most luck on these features on my local bodies of water and is a good rule of thumb when looking for wintertime bass. However, to keep it simple, I like to generally look for deeper water or places where deeper water is adjacent. If it is sunny, I generally try to target deeper rocks because the rocks will absorb heat and the bass will be attracted to it, especially on sunny days. However, I also really like to target points this time of year and have caught some good bass working a Finesse Jig down long points that have direct sunlight hitting it. I've also had good luck targeting bass that hold onto vertical structure. Vertical structure can be bridge pillars, docks, and trees in the water column. Bass will commonly relate to vertical structure this time of year, and this can be a good way to catch bass when the bite gets tough. The third tip I'm going to talk about is fishing your Finesse Jig as slow as possible. This time of year, it is important to fish your Finesse Jig as slow as possible because the bass are not moving around as much and are more lethargic in colder water compared to the warmer months. By slowing down, you are able to greatly increase your odds of catching a massive bass. To achieve this and stay in the strike zone longer, it is important for you to use as light of a Finesse Jig as possible. Using as light of a Finesse Jig as you can get away with will also better mimic the forage in your local body of water because most forage will not be moving around much in the wintertime. If the forage is moving around, it will be very slow, so a lighter Finesse Jig will not move as quick in the water column and will better resemble these forages in your local body of water. I like to fish my Finesse Jig as slow as possible this time of year when the water temperature is very low. A good helpful tip: if you think you are fishing your Finesse Jig slow enough, fish it even slower. I promise you this will get you so many more bites and you will have much better luck using a Finesse Jig the next time you are out on your local body of water. And you will be better imitating the forage and their speed moving around in the water. The fourth tip I'm going to talk about is using the right gear when fishing a Finesse Jig. Since the Finesse Jig is normally a lighter wire hook, you are going to want a rod that is not going to rip the hook out of the fish's mouth whenever you go and set the hook. I generally like to go with a casting rod that is a medium heavy fast action. However, you can also use a medium fast action rod depending on your preference. Depending on the size of the finesse jig you are fishing, some people like to use a spinning rod. It definitely comes down to personal preference and what works best with your fishing style. Whenever you are selecting a reel, you should use a reel that is a higher gear ratio. The reason behind this is so you can pick up slack in your line quicker when going to set the hook, and this will help you have a better hookup ratio compared to if you were using a slower gear ratio. The next important thing to consider is the line you're going to be using. It is important that you use fluorocarbon over braid and monofilament because your line will sink whenever you're using fluorocarbon. The next question you want to ask yourself is how clear of water you are fishing in, and if you're going to be fishing around structure. If you are going to be in clear water, I would go with 12-pound test fluorocarbon, but you can go even lighter if the fishery you're fishing is heavily pressured or still really clear. If you are fishing around heavy cover, I would go with heavier line, but no more than 16-pound test. If you are not getting bites, I would advise you to use as light of line as you can get away with to improve on how many bass will bite your finesse jig. And this is especially important this time of year in the winter, whenever the bites you get matter, because you are not getting that many bites out on your local body of water whenever it is this cold, so every single bite matters. The fifth tip I'm going to tell you is helping you understand when to fish the finesse jig. Whenever you are fishing a finesse jig, it is crucial you know the right time when to use one. The finesse jig shines during the winter, but works well the rest of the year. I throw a finesse jig whenever the bass are more hesitant to bite, or whenever I am fishing a heavily pressured body of water. The finesse jig shines in these scenarios because it is a smaller profile compared to using a fuller size jig, and it looks like an easy meal to the bass also. It is also important to know if the bass are holding on to the bottom or suspending. If they are suspending, it is likely they will not bite your finesse jig unless they bite it on the fall. Whenever you are determined if you should throw a finesse jig or not, you should ask yourself a couple questions. The first question you should ask yourself is if the water clarity is good. Finesse jigs shine in clear water conditions because the bass can see your jig from further away and be more enticed to come up and check things out. The second question you should ask yourself is if you are going to be fishing around cover. If you are, a finesse jig will be perfect to target the bass holding on to cover and can entice them to bite your lure. If you think about these tips whenever you are fishing a finesse jig, I promise you, you will get so many more bites and you can potentially land your next personal best bass. These are 5 tips that will help you catch more bass using the finesse jig. Following these tips will greatly increase the quantity and the quality of the bass you catch whenever you are fishing a finesse jig in the wintertime. Let me know if this video helped you in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Also, let me know if you agree or disagree with these 5 tips, and also let me know if you have had luck using a finesse jig before. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button to help the video in the YouTube algorithm so more people can get recommended this video. If you are not subscribed and you made it this far, I would love to have you join the channel. If you want to check out another proven fish catcher in the wintertime, make sure you check out this video right over here talking about the underspin.